And if you remember on the agenda, we had a CAT update, right? So we're talking a lot about CAT, and there's a number of things around it. So I'm not going to make your heads hurt here. But what I want to walk you through is kind of pace you through a little bit of taking your retail hat off, right? Take your retail hat off now and get your car dealer hat on a little bit. And not so much from you being the car dealer, et cetera, dealing with the nuts and bolts of it, but from you presenting to the car dealership and what that kind of looks like a little bit. And one of the points that Mike Souza and David remind me of almost every day, it's like, Glenn, they don't know Directed, right? They might have heard of Directed, they might know of Viper, but they don't know us. Like retailers and our 12-volt customers, they generally, you mentioned Directed, they kind of know some of the history, they know some of the products. But you go to the car dealer channel, generally, they don't know us. So part of what I'm going to walk you through here is kind of pace you through some of the key things that we present to the dealerships so that you kind of are more aware of getting a chance to get there's a lot of it's just who's the company and then what are, after the company, what do you present? On the car dealer channel. So you talk about the company and then what do you present? What? Solutions. Okay, so you're selling ROI, right? Return on investment. You're selling programs. You're selling solutions. You're typically not selling a product, right? Obviously, product's the reality, and you'll see product in this presentation because I catered this more to give you some examples. So maybe there's a little more product initially, but there's different rhythm and phases to the selling process at the car dealership. So not to overcomplicate or over-engineer it, but you have to really take your retail hat off, right? And then you have to put your car dealer hat on. And what's different also there in the car dealership environment is many different types of dealerships. So there's, in some markets, smaller stores that are owner-operators, right? The owner makes all the calls, and you know the sons are there and the daughters are there helping him with the business, and they're taking over the business sometimes. And so there's that type of mentality similar to what we see in the retail, but then there's more corporate structures, and then also within any dealership, what are there? Multiple departments, right? So you've got sales, you've got F&I, you've got fleet, you've got all of these different components, service, parts, et cetera. All these different dynamics that go on, similar to what we deal with at retail with the bays, the installer technicians, the sales floor, and the owner-buyer, right? So maybe a little bit simpler than what we deal with retail or distributors. But in a car dealership, it's just a different dimension. It's a different ballgame. So I'm going to just step through this thing, not go through every little detail, but typically we provide a company overview. So Directed is an innovator. We've got #1 share in our core markets. Some key brands, technology leadership in remote controls and smartphone controls. We've got a great team. We've got a lot of awards recognition. ISO 9001, we'll talk a little bit more later. It's a quality standard. So in the automotive space, having registration and quality systems are really important, right? So they're all concerned about CSI and quality. Really important to have some standards and some requirements to be met there. So we're privately held. A lot of that comes up front, right? Are you listed, public company, all that? No, we're privately held. We've been established a long time, since '82. Kind of helps also to frame out what are the products that we're into, the categories. And then some of the brands that you might have heard of in the different areas. So great portfolio. And then introducing that Automate is really a brand that, since the 80s, we've had allocated for the car dealer channel. So that brand is not found at retail. So just kind of teeing that up. And we get into market share, so we're really the undisputed leader in our space, right? When you get into consumer branded vehicle control and security, we're the 100-pound gorilla or 300-pound gorilla, or big gorilla.
We are
800 pounds.
We're still pretty small.
So kind of teeing that up, right? So really good, strong market share. Now getting into operations, we're a global company. So we have a staff of about 250 employees. We have a really strong engineering base, 15 engineers. We sell 1.5 million systems a year. Now that's systems, that's not parts, right? There's a lot of parts and accessories, but talk about systems in boxes. We're registered, we'll talk more about that. We got a number of facilities. We have design and development around the world and production around the world. By the way, we're building more and more products in North America now, in Canada, because of our interface business. There's a lot of automated assembly, so you'll see more of our content actually move to North America. So it's pretty exciting to see that we actually can compete with Asia in production. And many of our interface and a lot of the new kits that you'll see coming out are actually, made in North America and therefore quicker to market, right? So we don't have as much delay in producing some of that. So that's more between us. So high fill rates, really, we execute really well there. A lot of freight, operations, et cetera. So a little background on that. And then getting into what our experience is, going back to the company roots, we've done a lot of OE or semi-OE business, and we still do some business in that space today, just for background and for reference. So we've done different programs. The one program that we have up and running currently is in Canada with Hyundai of Canada. So we have a dealer installed program, so DIO, dealer installed option. DIO program that's been established for many years. Andre there is our Hyundai expert for Canada. He's managing that program for us there. So it's a multi-year program that's well established, servicing 175 dealerships. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We have done various programs along the way with OE, so we have that understanding, that background in both the engineering requirements and what it takes to be successful in that space, so we've taken a lot of that. The reason we don't have more of those programs today primarily is that we moved to a licensing revenue structure. So if we go back to some of the examples here, like with Porsche and Delphi, and some of the things that we've done with Toyota, for example, is we've actually had licensing of the OEs in our patent portfolio. So for example, for Toyota, we designed and have a patent on how to program a remote control to a vehicle, how to learn it. So that technology was licensed to Toyota. So when you follow the licensing revenue model, then we were more focused on that and then focused in on the aftermarket versus continuing to go after the OE business. So again, that's part of the explanation as why we don't have more in that space. So some, about customer satisfaction and really making sure things are rolling well within all around. So our industry awards really are independent and they stand in recognizing what we do well. We also do consumer surveys. So generally in the car dealership environment, there's a lot of focus on customer satisfaction, right? And so that's a lot in our DNA. You hear a lot of that from the company and we keep track of that. So ISO, it's about ISO registration. It's not certified. It's part of a standard that we have to meet. So you know what ISO is, there's various different standards, but for us in 9001, we actually designed, so there's a quality process to follow to ensure quality in terms of the design component with 9001. But essentially, simply put, the ISO standards that we follow are really from the point that you really, designing products and all that, but really from taking the order and all the steps of ensuring that the quality standards are met throughout the whole process until the customer actually receives the product. So there's a lot of steps and processes, making sure that we follow through, and then the feedback loop when there are problems, so for corrective action. So a lot of those things, are just part of our DNA, part of our discipline. We've been, registering these things for decades. So, other companies, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of documentation, it's a big commitment. So it's something that's important, right? It's that gate that you have to get through. The other big factor that we all, use with our customers and we're proud of is our technical support. We have, the most robust, the strongest team, the leading team in technical support in the industry with unparalleled expertise and high volume of call management, in-field training. One thing that registers a lot with the commercial space is really having the ability to train technicians in the field and deal with a lot of the tools that we have. So on the engineering side of things, we're obviously a strong backbone in engineering in the various areas, telematics, data bus, telecommunications, et cetera. So very experienced team in that space. Leadership in smartphone innovation. The exciting thing, there's a little graphic issue here, is a big part of our excitement and what we're about is, obviously we're number one when it comes to handheld controls, and with those remote controls you have some limitation as to how many control functions you can get. How many buttons can you put on a remote and how easy it is to use. But with the smartphone, we really have a computer talking to a computer now, and we can really enhance the level of capability and functionality with the smartphone. So we're number one in both of those spaces and have a lot of exciting things that we're bringing to market through smartphone control. Another area, back to our technology and integration of our technology in the vehicle, is making remote start easier with all of the products that we bring to market and the plug and play. Limits errors, limits mistakes, makes the integration cleaner. There's less wires to deal with and issues there. So a lot of solutions that are just easier to execute and bringing remote start technology to more and more vehicles. So that's some of the background on Directed there. And so, these slides are just for reference to walk you through kind of some of the things that we would say about the company, right? These are tools that we'll package better for you to have as references, but then we get sometimes into product examples. Oh, so you do a program with Hyundai, what does that look like? We've done a lot of work. I mean, the team in Canada, Andre works with the product folks up there, and we really get a lot of the customer input, and some of the products we make are just really fantastic. They're really much better than the OE products. They look better, they perform better. This is an example of a two-way remote that we built for Hyundai in Canada. So strong relationship there, dealer installed program, a lot of training and ongoing commitment there. Our ability to provide Mercedes solutions is another example that comes up depending on the dealerships, et cetera. And so this is more now let's get to one of the key things. This is one of the key slides that you need to understand when we talk about CAT. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have what we refer to as our core programs. So core, obviously based to our core business, we're mostly known for security, remote start, those type of components, and packaged in three areas, right? So you're familiar with Select, you're familiar with Classic, and with Express, we have in the last year developed a number of solutions that are packaging essentially mostly a DBL with the right remote control, right? So we have an assortment of products that are digital solutions that are more vehicle specific, right? But they're much simpler to install. So you have the option to add a harness to them and make them targeted vehicles, but most of those installations require 6 to 8 wires for an installation, right? So it's power, ground, 2 data wires, etc. So all of this is kind of in our core right here, and these are the products that you're mostly familiar with. And when you go to the dealership, these are the most common approaches that you would pick from your arsenal. We have been developing, you've heard over time, and more recently, what we refer to now as strategic programs. And those are the ones that we are in process of bringing to market. We have installed now LMS at a number of dealerships, and we are now moving ahead with going to market. It becomes a very targeted process because back to what we started with, which is program selling, it's not a matter of taking orders and moving boxes here, right? There's more to it because you have to install these programs at the dealership because there's different departments involved, right? You've got sales selling them, you've got F&I closing the deals and financing them, and likely technicians and service involved at different parts of it. So it becomes a greater investment in time in managing those programs at the dealership, and it's not just wham bam you're done. You have to have follow-up, right? Because the staff changes at the dealership, you have to retrain. So it's a process. So that's why we really want to make you aware of how we're approaching the strategic programs. We want to make sure that we execute well, right? Because we've developed a pipeline of opportunities, but we need to now execute them step by step. And so we don't want to roll these out to you and you just start selling these things all over the place. We have to really take the right steps and install these programs effectively at the dealerships that we go to. So we have, for example, LMS at a dealership locally here. They've sold over 1,200 systems since we've had the program implemented. So we're developing a good base of testimonials for you. And we have solutions now that have been really worked through. And so we're taking the next steps now. So with our experience and our background in retail, it really takes a different team and a different approach. And that's why we have Mike Souza, David Richardson, Jed, Al Fontaine, and myself primarily as the go-to people for the strategic programs here. We've been working together with James Turner and Claude Bergeron and a number of other folks to make sure that we have the end-to-end solutions built out. So just kind of framing that out, remember core and strategic. When we talk strategic, there's LMS and then the car command solution. So we'll give you kind of the more salesy approach. Mike kind of gave you through the overview of the app here. This is more of a general sales presentation, so quick intro by video here. Hello and welcome to the demonstration of the Car Command app. This app can be customized to the dealership's marketing and customer relationship management goals. So we use the Connect feature of the app for the user to connect to the dealership. With this screen, you'll have access to a number of functions in the app, such as accessing service and scheduling a service appointment. So
So we can request a service appointment right here, right from your phone, and integrate that with the dealership services. I need an oil change and an air filter change, and I'd like to do that tomorrow. So I can simply put the request in from my phone and link up with the dealership, who will confirm my time and the service request. Other things you can do is obviously look at the dealership's inventory and integrate that right from the phone, connect with the various departments at the dealership, and also tap into social media benefits and marketing the dealership's sales and service functions. So along with the Connect capability, we obviously have really developed an app as an ecosystem for the dealership to market and connect with both prospects of the dealerships and the dealership's customers. But at the same time, for a hard ad back-end opportunity for aftermarket add-ons, we have these 3 other buttons on the app to access the control functions. One very popular in big metro areas is stolen vehicle recovery. We have that package under Secure, so simply press that button to access Secure. This does require hardware to be installed in the vehicle. With the monitor capability and control capabilities, you have kind of 2 other areas. So with control, you have obviously all the convenience functions of keyless entry control from the smartphone, lock and lock the doors, and obviously, depending on the customer's needs, remote starting, etc. So that is done through the control button and with the hardware, appropriate hardware installed. With Monitor, we're obviously leveraging all the capabilities of GPS technology integrated in the system to be able to locate the vehicle, have various data functions, and also security functions using GPS technology. So with that, obviously, we can then control the capability to monitor smart fence, exiting a smart fence, hotspot, which is the vehicle driving to a location, and other capabilities that are offered by GPS.
I like the word obviously. And I used that probably 20 times there. But that was just quickly down on the phone to just give you an overview of the app. So again, there's some great things that we have here that we're taking to market, and we want to make sure we execute well. So here's kind of what this looks like. So what David has particularly taken some time on with Mike and I is, okay, what's the process here? And back to program selling, right? So, you know, it's very different than us selling a product solution to an expediter or dealership. We have to go through the entire process of really going through what our proposition, what our offer is. And what really comes in the front end is, Mr. Dealership, you know, we're going to make some money at this. How much money is that going to be? We're going to show you. We're going to have done some research on your dealership. How many cars you're selling each month, right? What the penetration rate could be on a program. So if we're selling 350 cars a month, what are some of the numbers behind that? So we've built tools to basically program that in. So as we profile the dealership, you'll have very simple tools to say if they do 350 cars a month, you know, here are some penetration rates and building out that solution. So pretty effectively being able to go in. We think we can come up with a program that'll be a $250K a year aftermarket program for your dealership. Oh, really? Okay, you got my attention. Show me how. So along the way here, maybe David, you want to make some comments on program selling versus other approaches, real quick?
Yeah, this is, I mean, obviously this looks like an eye chart here, and it is. But it really is really kind of walk you through. We're not really selling, again, we're not selling products. Let me just get a picture you see. We're not selling products here, we're selling a business proposition. Because dealerships don't buy products. They're not in the business of selling remote starts or security systems or any other widget. What are they in the business of selling? Cars, period. And you know what? Anything else is an interference to them. So what we have to do is present as a business proposition that has solutions. As Glenn said, we're selling a solution. So it is pretty unique in here. And what we did try to do is map out each one of these steps. And if you skip one of these steps, frankly, you're going to get kicked to the curb. Even if you follow these steps, sometimes you're going to get kicked to the curb. But you can always come back in here. But you know, we are presenting it to the dealership. We're asking them permission. And once we get that, we're also going through with these strategic programs. What makes us unique is we have to make sure it's aligned. These are not a one-size-fits-all type deal. And what we don't want to do is get into a store. We're going to put a lot of upfront investment in training these people. I mean, we're going to be on site for a good week with 2 people. We're going to be putting materials in. There's a lot of cost to launch one of these programs in there. And if they sell half a dozen units, we're in trouble, right? So the thing is, if we're going to make that, we got to make sure they're aligned with us. So we see them here in a box that says alignment service, conduct an in-store alignment survey. It's an electronic tool that we created that they actually go through and ask each of the department heads a few different questions. And it's basically going to tell us, is this store going to be a good store to be in or not? And if it's not going to be a good store to be in, do we want to put the thousands of dollars of travel and time and training into the store just to have it really not be a mediocre result? We learned that through the beta test in LMS. When we did the beta and the LMS test, we had one superstar store that we did some good alignment on, and we had one that wasn't so great. And so it wasn't really worth that investment on it. So we want to do the alignment survey, make sure that everything's on board. Also, as you know, somebody in the dealership can actually stop this program. And it could be the person, you have no idea who they are, they're sitting in the back office and they're controlling a comptroller or something. They can literally stop this whole thing.
But back to the program, I think this alignment survey is just an example of the kind of the different process we have to follow. For example, similar to retailers, some retailers are big into something and some others. Some dealerships just don't do a lot of aftermarket. It's just the nature, the way the policies are, or their habits. They don't do a lot of aftermarket. Others, it's all about aftermarket. So by spending a little bit of time on the front end of this and qualifying them, right, you're able to better either propose the right solution for them. Will an expediter fit in the mix or not? Many dealerships are actually doing their own expediting, and it's done by a separate company that they own. But until you really engage with them, you're not able to qualify that.
Then we're actually having them sign an agreement. They're going to commit to this thing for a period of time. You see that sign an agreement in here. We're going to schedule a launch. We're going to go in there, and we have all these laid out. We've got full weeks of agenda, of training and management meetings, etc., to get everybody all on board and get these things launched. So you can see there's a lot that goes into the system. That's why we're saying don't just go out there to your territory and say, hey, we've got this really cool thing as Car Command. You want to buy it? Because it's not that simple, guys. It really isn't. But here's the cool thing is what we're selling today in the core programs, if we can get to what we call RIO do bill business, we've been talking about that for the last few years. We all know what that is. You're getting maybe a 2 to 5% penetration. With these programs, we're getting 70 and 80% penetration for the dealership. It's a whole different value proposition for all of us.
Great. So again, the key takeaways is really here to expose you to, this different channel, right? We're diversifying, and we're really now wanting to make sure that we execute well in this channel. So, part of how we're approaching it is really tiering our programs, our solutions, and then obviously the related products within that. So one of the big factors is really the installation component. So many of the products are continuing, right? Classic and Select, our core programs, involve different, profile and requirements. So part of what we see is a number of our current expediters becoming what we refer to potentially as agents, right? So part of the evolution that we have to take as we go into this channel here is you might have an expediter today that is really skilled and you're providing products to, but because this dealer group that they're dealing with is so big that they might actually have to become our agent for that group, right? And the dealership won't do anything unless we, the supplier, deal with them directly. So you really have to take a different approach here sometimes and be prepared to do that, right? It's not a linear thing, right? So take a little bit of dimension here based on the programs as to how we might approach things differently. This kind of frames it out a little bit in terms of how, we've been very focused here on core. We might have general agents that supply other products or services to the dealerships that we engage with more so. And, so again, a different dimension to how we are going to approach this business moving ahead. So Mike Souza, David, Alfontaine, myself, and Jed for Canada are kind of the leads for the project. There's more. There's a team that we're going to be building up here in the next about 18 months, but you'll see this ramp up further ahead. So now that we've kind of talked about this, I just want to lay some of these things out there for you. I want to spend a little bit of time drilling into some of the programs. So one of the exciting things that we've had is with our Express Start solutions, we have our branding offering and automate with the different handheld remotes. So we have our one-way and two-way offering there, obviously including smartphone control. So our product assortment, the nice benefit here is that in the car dealer channel, we can really target that vehicle-specific approach, a lot easier than we can on the retail side, right? So having the right solution, like Alfontaine referred to yesterday, I can really focus on what I have available and really target those vehicles to offer a real effective solution. So some things there. We have, in the month of July, doubled our select sales. And part of that came from Mike Souza's efforts, working with Al Fontaine primarily, to identify tiering our pricing to larger customers. So we had gone to market with some really good product, really invested a lot on the front end, but we hadn't tiered our pricing for the larger volume customers. So we've come up with pricing in grosses and 2 grosses for long-term commitments for the larger expediters, and really been able to move the needle dramatically in July. So we want you to take another fresh look at Select and work with David, with Mike, Al Fontaine, myself, and Jed to really let's revisit those opportunities for the larger volume customers. So we're really getting out of the gate with Select right now, really value-added product. The positioning of the product is very different than others. We have done a lot of work on the cosmetics. We've had just nothing but great feedback on those solutions. So a couple other things on the product here. I'll just kind of flip through the slides, how we've made it different than retail. Any questions for maybe some of the core programs for Mike Souza or Al, David? Any questions on our core programs right now?
Glenn, I'd like to add a little bit about the Select. Guys in the East, I think everybody would agree when I would say that you guys felt a lot of pressure from me at the end of this last month of July to get the Select out there. Anybody not feel the pressure? Rick? How many times I call you Rick? Now we've had some success in the nature or in the spirit of our summer sales meeting this year, where we're talking about success stories, and we'll be getting to that in a minute. I just wanted to share one or a couple of things that I found in this last month that we found some success with Select, just to help everybody here kind of learn from what worked for us. And I'm going to use Bruno as an example. He doesn't know this is coming, but a lot of the guys, when I was putting this pressure, we were all saying, "Oh, there's no way, this stuff's too expensive. You know, it's all about price, price, price." And Bruno and I went out and we did 4 presentations. And of those 4 presentations, we actually felt success in 3 of them. One of them just wasn't going anywhere. We took one order, 72 pieces. We took a promise for an order that we're still following up on, that I'm very confident we're going to get, and another order that didn't come together. But to us, that was very successful. And I'm going to ask Bruno something. Bruno, of the 4 guys we went to see, who was the one we least expected to have any success from? Distinctive car toys in New Jersey. We thought, you know what, we're going to be in that area. Let's go see this guy. We went, we saw him, we took 72-piece order. We walked out there to go, wow, we just needed to kind of get out there and talk about it. And the one thing that I found that's been very successful is talking about the margin increase by offering Select as an upgrade. Everybody's got Classic going, right? Well, I said, listen, you're looking at another $12 to go to a Select 1 buy. Tell me you can't get $50 for 2,000 feet of range, these beautiful transmitters, this better unit that's going to be easier for you to install. Can't you get $50 for that? And everybody said, oh yeah, I could get $50. I said, well, that's 75% margin on the upgrade. You're giving me 12, you're selling it for 50, 75% margin. And that's what we found was helping us sell Select. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I just wanted to say thank you for the guys who helped me move some Select. Craig Norman did a really great job with it as well. Bruno and Jamie, really good support on Select. Please reach out to me. I'd love to help us get some more Select market share. Okay?
Yeah. And I thank you, Mike, and everybody else who did really push this and get this ball rolling. But one of the things is, and it's been mentioned today in some of the seminars, and you heard it, that we have a lot of, not businessmen out there or business people out there, but we have a lot of people doing business. Okay, you heard that, and we all know that's true, and these expedited channels and such are on it. And we've got to help them a little bit. Here's the reality is if you go into a dealership, okay, not an expediter, etc., and you talk about this amount of money, they're going to push back, because they push back on everything. That's the nature of the beast, right? That's what they do. They argue price every day with the customers. They're going to argue price with you. But it's pretty easy to overcome. You say, look, you don't choose what you pay for any of the cars. You don't choose what you pay for the parts. But what you do control is how much you make on it, right? Wouldn't you want to make more money on this? Can't you take this higher performance, elegant delivery piece, you can't get more, $75 more for it? Of course, they're going to take that challenge and say, of course I can't do that. So to Mike's point, it's perfect. Mr. Expediter, he pushed the Expediter and said, look, you're going to pay $12 more, you can charge the dealer $50 more. You make it a pushback and go, I can't get $50 more. Yes, you can. Come on, let's go. People do it in and out all the time. They're buying the average price of a new car is what? Anybody have a swing a guess now? $33,000. Okay, by the way, they don't buy $33,000 cars, they buy $450 a month cars. What does this change by buying a $500 alarm system? Anybody swing a guess on a 60-month lease, $4? It's about $7.50 a month. You're going to tell me they can't, so what is that $50, $75 more to the dealership that he's selling it for mean to the customer? What's it, a quarter? A month? I mean, come on. They're not that weak. So keep pushing that, but you're right, you're going to get the pushback from the Expediter, and then you're going to get a pushback from the dealership, you persevere through it, and we're going to sell a ton of Select product. And what does that mean to your bottom lines? How many less Select do you have to get to still get to that number, the profitability, etc. It's just it's a very, very good value proposition. So keep going down that road, guys. It's worth it.
Okay, folks, as you've thrown out your homework, we're going to switch gears now. So thanks for the CAD team.